Okay, just a second. There we go. So for those of you who have never seen The Chosen, you get to just be a part of the recap. And you can just kind of digest what's happening. But also, too, if you would like to, and as we're losing people, you can also move forward. If you would like to share what it is you remember from the episodes and everything that did take place. In episode 1, we're introduced to a character called Lilith. And she's struggling. She's struggling with her understanding of life, what it really means, where is God in all of this, and she's really torn by this world of torment. And so we find her struggling probably much as some of us do on a daily basis, or at the pit of despair in our lives. It's here, though, too, where we encounter an image of a dove, representing the Holy Spirit and of life, coming together and being reminded that God is a part of this world. Is there anything else I missed from episode 1? Seeing none, let's go to episode 2. In episode 2, we're introduced to 2 characters that really are the central focus. The first one is on your left, the gentleman Nicodemus, a Pharisee, a religious leader at the time. And it is Nicodemus who has gone to Lilith in order to bring her out of her despair and cast out the demon that is tormenting her, or so they thought. Yet, when Nicodemus goes to visit her, it doesn't happen. She's still tormented. But then she meets someone else, and her life is changed. She no longer goes by Lilith, but now goes by Mary. And Mary is just fine. Her life has been restored. She's able to understand things normally. Things in the past that used to torment her don't anymore. Yet something has changed her for the better. And Nicodemus comes and talks to her and asks, what is it that has changed you? What is it that has transformed you? Was it the work that I did? And she looks upon him and says, it wasn't anything you did. It was someone else. Anything else I'm missing in episode 2? Yeah.
In episode 2, when it was someone else, she wasn't sure who someone else was, right?
She was aware of who someone else was,
But didn't know what his name was.
but he did not want his name shared into the world, for it was not yet his time. Boy, that gives it away, doesn't it? No, that's okay. Yes, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about a few things that if you do watch again, you'll be like, oh, that's what he's talking about. Anything else? Here in episode 2, we're really focused on these 2 characters. Her life being restored, and Nicodemus starting to wonder how, what, and why is God up to in the world. Episode 3. Jesus is out in the wilderness. He's not in any town, but a little girl comes and visits him, sits with him and talks to him. A stranger in the wilderness and a child goes and talks to her, or talks to him. In our modern times, would this happen? Maybe. But more often than not, we would be saying to our children, stranger equals danger. Do not talk to anyone. Do not accept food or candy or puppies or anything else from strangers. Yet Jesus gathers not only this girl, but her friends. And if any of you grew up in a time or a place in which your parents just let you frolic during the day and said, come back before it's dark, that's probably the same kind of thinking that was going on here. The kids were gone. The kids were playing. As long as you come back with no broken bones and no one else that has broken bones, you're fine. But what adventures did they see? What did they learn? Jesus gathers them together and begins teaching, sharing with them what it is he was all about, and also, too, what it was that they were able to share in their own faith. Kind of echoes our sermon today. Anything else from episode 3 that you recall?
This was one of my favorite episodes.
Sure. Anything in particular as to why?
I was able to speak to the children on
Sure.
their level, and he taught them skills.
He did. He had them enter into the same work that he was doing. Come, help me in these labors.
There was a lot of humor.
There was a lot of humor here. Anything else? Seeing none, let's go on to episode 4. In episode 4, we're really focused on one man. He's struggling though. He can't pay his bills. Many of his debts are coming under due. And not only that, but the interest on it is also becoming greater than the debt itself. And he's about to lose his boat, his house, his livelihood, and possibly everything else. And so what about his family? What about his wife? What about his in-laws? What about those that are depending on him? We meet Simon, struggling. He begins to think, if only I can earn enough, if only I can go out and fish and catch enough fish to sell at the market and be able to settle all my dues, all my debts, everything would be right again. Yet he goes out night after night, day after day, and he catches absolutely nothing. Well, what do you do then? It's in episode 4 here. In the midst of his despair, that a man comes and calls him and says, go out and cast your nets again, only put them on the other side of the boat. And when he does, it begins to break the nets with how many fish are in there. It begins to sink the boat with the weight of the fish that are coming in. And the people on the shore are just simply amazed. They're dumbfounded. And other fishermen have to come over and help him, even bring them in so that he would make sure that he would be able to keep them. And yet, his first response is, I'm not a righteous man. You do not want me to follow you. Many of us know, though, what goes on to become Simon Peter's true work in the church, in the world, and for this faith. Anything else from episode 4? Seeing none. Episode 5. Episode 5, we have Jesus first in the temple when he's just a young boy. And he goes to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. But then his parents leave with the crowd and leave him behind. Has any of that ever happened to one of you? You were at the store, you were at the mall, you were even at church. Your parents leave and they forget you. What do? You panic. Do you go over to the phone and pick up the phone and go, "Hi, Mom. I'm still at church. Something tells me you and Dad are both at home, right?" "You're so right. We'll be right over to pick you up." "Okay." And yet they find him teaching. Now, I want you to understand the perspective here. This is not teaching in a small place. This is not a small venue. This is like the big mega church in the city, and Jesus, this no-name person, is able to go up in front of everyone and begin teaching, and everyone there is going, "Where did this kid learn this? I didn't know that." That's right. That is so simple. The way he's explaining it, and it's capturing the meaning, the essence, and everything. Why wasn't my teacher this good? Who was his teacher? But that's not the focus of this episode. The episode continues to the people going to a wedding. And it is at that wedding where they run out of wine and they begin to wonder, what will we do? How will we do this? What will we do for the sake of our guests, for the sake of the people that are gathered together for celebration? It's Mary, Jesus' mother, and her family that are a part of the family that is taking care of the food and the other needs of this celebration. And so Mary goes to Jesus and says, we need to do something about this. And many of us know the story. But here we're able to witness it in a cinematic word. Anything else I'm missing from episode 5? Well, let's keep going. Episode 6. It's in episode 6 that the message of Jesus and his name begins going around. People begin hearing about his miracles, his works, but they're not certain exactly who he is, what he is. Is he a prophet like of old? Is he just a wise teacher? Is he something else in the mix? But it's here, when he's teaching a crowd, that people from the land, from a foreign land, come and bring their friend to be healed. They can't make it past the crowd that's crushing in order to hear everything. And so what they do is they go up to the roof, open up the roof, and lower in their friend, the paralytic. And Jesus begins teaching and sharing and saying, what would be easier for me? To say your sins are forgiven, or for him to stand up and to take his mat and go home. Jesus says both, to the amazement of the Pharisees and the crowd that are watching. Yet some don't like it. Who gave him the power and authority? Still others are amazed and they want to know, oh, how can they heal me? Well, how can they heal my troubles in my life? What's going to help me in my journey? The focus becomes apparent. Who are we paying attention to? Ourselves or those who are in need around us in this community? Anything else from episode 6 that I missed? Well, let's go on to episode 7. In episode 7, we had the reintroduction of a new, or the same character, but in a different way. Nicodemus comes at night and talks to Jesus about some of his questions. How is it God can do this for some people and this for other people? Why is it God chooses to show faith, mercy, and love to these people, but then this group over here, he leaves them to their own accord? So Jesus begins talking to him about these earthly matters that Nicodemus is raising up. But then he goes even further and says, why is God acting in this way in the world? And Nicodemus says, I don't know. And Jesus says, if you're struggling to understand earthly things, how can you begin to understand heavenly things? They begin talking about the Messiah. All the Jews were wondering, when will the Messiah come? But there were two groups. There were some that were wondering when the Messiah would come, and then the other group was asking the question of if the Messiah would come. Nicodemus is in the when group. This time of conversation and questions ends with Jesus going to Nicodemus and saying, come, follow me. Nicodemus struggles with this, though. He's an old man, close to retirement age. He has family. He has children, grandchildren. He has a reputation and a name for himself that he must also uphold. So what is he to do? Is he to let go of all of these things and go follow this man? Or should he hold on to these things that the world says are important? I'll let you watch the episode to find out how he chooses. Or read the Bible, your choice. Anything in episode 7 I may have missed?
I think when we see how Nicodemus struggles
Mm-hmm.
in that episode, it really is on.
Yeah, Nicodemus' struggles, I'll say we can relate to.
Do you think Nicodemus ultimately believed?
Are you asking me personally or from the episode itself? Me personally? Nicodemus did believe, and spoiler alert here, if you've ever read the story, he actually goes, and when Jesus dies on the cross, he asks for the body. He uses his power, he uses his authority and position in order to make accommodations that he may take care of Jesus in a different way. He recognizes his importance and his faith in this man. Anything else from episode 7? Episode 8. We're introduced to a woman who comes to the well in the heat of the day. All the other ladies come to the well early in the morning when it's cool, so they fill up their jugs of water for the day. They carry them all the way home so that throughout the day they have enough water, they have enough of everything that they would need. It would only be those who were going to the well in the heat of the day, an undesirable time, who would be undesirable by the society. They wouldn't want to be associating with her. Jesus comes to the well before the woman arrives, tells his disciples to go into the village, get some food, get lunch so that we can eat. And then this woman comes. The woman of Samaria, the woman at the well, is a story many of us know, but this gives us a different vantage point. It offers to us some emotion, some perspective of what that elation, that feeling, that emotion could even be. That when you're watching this episode, you begin to see it, hopefully, in a new light. For those of you that may remember, how many husbands did this woman have? How many is that? 6. She had several husbands. Many people had wondered if she had been cursed because each of her husbands died. So they wondered, was it this woman who was doing it? Or was she cursed and God was punishing her or the family? Yet Jesus comes, speaks to her, redeems her, restores her to the community, and she begins talking and sharing who this man Jesus is, what it is that he has told her, and that she is able to now speak and be restored, and people begin listening and actually agreeing with her to come and listen to Jesus and his teachings. It's these 8 episodes that is season 1. If you haven't already watched it, I encourage you to do so. Make it a family night. Each episode is roughly 30 to 50 minutes long. So yes, in one day you could binge watch them, especially if you're between classes, or watch it at night. When there's nothing on television, put something on television and watch something that may enrich your own faith. If you really are interested, we recorded our discussions and put them online. So if you want to go back and watch some of the discussions that we had as we were watching them, you can still go on YouTube and watch those discussions. As was noted during our worship service, not next week, but in 2 weeks' time, we are going to start with episode 1 of season 2. That gives you plenty of time that if you didn't watch season 1, you can still watch season 1 and then join us for season 2. But I do hope to see you here next week for that discussion, to learn of our contemporary worship and that survey results that we did. Any questions or thoughts or ideas that we want to share with everyone that's gathered here?
What's next week?
What's that?
What's next week?
Next week, we're gathering together for the Contemporary Worship Survey results. We're going to talk about that and what that looks like, what that means for us moving forward with that. So.
I encourage that if anybody is interested in doing this, starting with season 2, that if you haven't yet watched season 1, to do so before you watch season 2. And if you have watched season 1, I think you should watch it again before you start season 2. I binge watched it last Saturday with a friend. All day and had a great time.
Absolutely.
And it's not action, it's an enjoyable watch.
It is. It really is an enjoyable watch. For many people, what they found is you can put it on your phone or a tablet, or if you have a smart television, you can then cast it to your television and then watch it that way. Find whatever works for you and your family. If there's just one of you, watch it on the screen that you have. If there's 12 of you, watch it on one giant screen or watch it on 12 different screens. Your choice.
But it's neat to see the emotion the director has. He's very passionate about it.
So if you watch it online, there's also other commentaries from the director and also the resources that he used. In making this series, he has used a Catholic priest, an evangelical professor, and a Jewish rabbi to consult to make sure that he's staying in line with the ideas, the heritage, and also be able to convey the message that would be relevant for not only at that time, but even for us today. So, any other questions, thoughts? Well, seeing none, I'm going to stop recording first of all.